When we see a stray animal on the street, most of us hope it ends up in a good, safe place. But what does safe or humane actually mean when it comes to the law? Well, today we're going to break down the official government blueprint that lays out every single step of the process, from the moment an animal is caught to the final critical decision about its future. Okay, so before we even get into the pound itself, the official guidelines kick off with this core philosophy, the 5 freedoms. You can think of these as the fundamental rights for every animal. They're the foundation that shapes every single rule we're about to talk about. It's all about prioritizing their physical and, just as importantly, their psychological well-being. All right, so the whole process begins where it does for most of these animals, right there on the street. So let's take a look at how the regulations demand a stray animal should be caught and handled long before it even sees the inside of a pound. It's not just about grabbing an animal. It's about who does the grabbing. And the rules are super clear on this. The team can't just be anybody. They have to be mature, show empathy, and be professionally trained in handling animals humanely. Plus, they need to be easy to identify and work as a proper team to make sure everyone, the animals and the people, stays safe. Now let's talk about the tools of the trade, because they're also heavily regulated. Take this pole net. It's not just any old net. It's specifically designed for safety. See how deep that net is? That's so it can be twisted, which secures the animal inside without actually putting any painful pressure on its body. And it's the same idea with the loophole. This is another approved tool for humane restraint. Its whole purpose is to give the handler control while keeping a safe distance, which protects both the animal and the person. It's all about control, not cruelty. That's the key. But what about really tough situations? For animals that are particularly wild or aggressive? Well, chemical capture is an option, and this is a big but, it is an absolute last resort. And this isn't something the regular catching team can do. It has to be performed by a licensed vet or a technician with very specific training. Okay, so once an animal is caught, the clock is ticking. The trip to the pound is regulated to be as short and as stress-free as possible. That means using a proper vehicle. It has to be enclosed and well-ventilated to protect them from the heat, the rain, or even people harassing them. Every little detail is covered, right down to non-slip floors and even a ramp so they can get out safely. So the animal has finally arrived. But what actually makes a pound humane? Well, the rules for the building itself are just as strict as they are for the whole capture process. Let's go inside. What's really fascinating here is the intense focus on the actual materials used in the pound. The rules basically forbid anything that could cause harm. For example, cage floors can't be made of wire. That can really hurt an animal's paws. They have to be solid, like hard plastic. The cage frames, stainless steel, so they don't rust. It's basically a blueprint for preventing injury and disease through smart, thoughtful design. And this right here shows you the incredible level of detail we're talking about. It's not enough for a cage to just be big enough. Nope. The rules spell out the exact minimum dimensions based on the animal's size. This guarantees they have enough room to do the basics: sit, stand, lie down, and stretch out completely. And it goes way beyond the physical space. Daily life inside the pound is also strictly laid out. We're talking everything from constant access to clean drinking water to specific feeding schedules, like puppies have to be fed more often than adults. And maybe most importantly, any animal that's sick or injured must be treated by a licensed veterinarian. No exceptions. So what this really means is that a proper pound can't just be a holding cell. It has to function almost like a clinic. It's required by law to have a special isolation ward to stop diseases from spreading, and a completely separate, sterile room just for surgeries. Okay, so the animal is now safely and humanely housed in a pound that follows all the rules. But its stay is only temporary. As soon as it arrives, a clock starts ticking on a huge decision about its future. If there's one number you need to remember from all of this, it's this one: 3. As soon as a healthy dog or cat is brought in, a 3-day clock starts. This is the crucial make-or-break window for an owner to come forward and claim their lost pet. So what happens when those 3 days are up and no one has shown up? Well, according to the regulations, the road splits. There are now 3 potential outcomes for that animal. Path number 1, and this is the one everyone is hoping for, is the reunion. An owner finds their pet within that 3-day window and reclaims them, usually after sorting out any local fees or fines. Now, if an owner doesn't come forward, the next best thing is a brand new home. Pounds are instructed to work on getting unclaimed animals adopted by qualified people, and they often team up with animal welfare groups to do this. And here's a critical part. Every single animal that gets adopted must be neutered by a licensed vet. That is non-negotiable. And then there's the third path. For the animals that aren't reclaimed by an owner and aren't chosen for adoption, the regulations state that euthanasia is the final authorized outcome. And that process itself is also governed by a whole separate, detailed set of rules to make sure it's done as humanely as possible. So we have this whole comprehensive system on paper, which is great, but how do we make sure it's actually being followed in the real world? This last section is all about oversight, accountability, and honestly, the role that we can play. Which brings us to the big question, right? With all these incredibly detailed rules for everything from capture to housing, who is actually making sure these pounds are following them? The answer really boils down to one word: transparency. The whole system is built on making things accountable. Pounds have to be officially registered, they have to keep detailed records of every single animal, and, crucially, both those records and the facility itself have to be open for the public to see. And I really want to drive this point home. These aren't just nice ideas or suggestions from a charity. This is official government policy. It's an administrative circular from the Department of Agriculture of the Philippines, and it carries the full weight of national law. So, we've walked through the government's official blueprint, the gold standard for what a humane animal pound is supposed to be, and that leaves us with one final thought, a question for you. Now that you know what the rules on paper look like, how does reality measure up in your community?